got my mic, my headset on because kids are home and they're doing schoolwork, and I want to record this. And I want this to be kind of like my first, I don't know, YouTube video. That's not just some TikTok funny joke or I don't know some cool movie that I've made. And I want to talk about something that I've kind of always thought about and just fooled around with. I don't want to say I'm a conspiracy theorist. I believe in philosophy. I think of both sides of an argument. How knowledge itself is impartial. And this website, I stumbled upon this through Facebook, and so I'm sure somebody shared it just to be, I don't know if the person shared it to be serious. I'm not, I'm not a religious person per se. I grew up Catholic. I went to church. My mother was in the choir. When I went to church, I spent most of my time playing Pokemon, up in the balcony when my mother sang. Uh, it, it really didn't interest me. I lived a tough life, so I don't know. I didn't move towards religion as my way of escaping. I moved away from it. And I thought if there was a God, how could he be so cruel, make me suffer so much? But that's neither here nor there. So I have a good understanding of religion in the sense that I grew up with it. I've studied it in college. I've studied it in my spare time. I've thought about it. Gods, many religions. uh, but this is one thing that I just love. Could American evangelicals spot the Antichrist? Here are the biblical. So well before that's before Obama. I voted for Obama. Who knows it? I saw Obama in Manchester, and after seeing his, I wanted to become a teacher. And I went to college, and then I got my degree, and I became a teacher. So I don't want to say I loved Obama, and I owe him anything, but he was this grandiose person. I mean, he was awesome. He was great. Seeing him speak, and there's something about it that just made me want to selfish person and get back to my community. So I did. But when Trump did the scene, oh, I knew this. I knew this was this. And so I don't want to say that this is like my religious prediction or that I'm saying Trump is the. I definitely think he possibly could be in the sense that yeah, he is anti-Christ. Like everything that we've been taught about Christ, that I was taught about Christ in or I read about Bible. Like, yeah, he's anti-Christ. He's the opposite of what Christ would do. I mean, in a situation, if you would WWJD, what would Jesus do? And you thought to yourself, okay, so what would Jesus do? He would do the right thing, like help people and take care of people, especially when they needed it and that they were poor or hungry, and he fed them and gave them what they needed. No, this is the opposite of that. So I don't really know what if he were the Antichrist, what it would be. I feel like in my mind, this is kind of like the end all be all. With that, if I bring back to this, I'm a Star Wars fan, huge Star Wars fan. I love Star Wars, and so I bring it back to this ultimate goal, especially as an English teacher, of good and evil. I mean, this constant battle of you know push and pull, and the good is always fighting the evil. And would the evil exist if not for the good? I mean, I don't. The something with Star Wars, the Force or the Jedi and the Sith, and this constant battle. And would the Sith exist if not for the Jedi? Would they just be would they just be Sith users or Force users? So with this, I think to myself, aside from all that stuff, I feel like this ushers in a world where evil really rears its head and takes hold. There's nothing we can do about it. And I'm not to say that people haven't compared Hitler, every other terrible demagogue, despot, whatever you want to call him, fascist, and compared him to the Antichrist. And I feel like there is some semblance. But I feel like this one, I don't know, this one rings to me more true because I feel as though, it's more in our faces and it's all over the world. And it's not just, I don't know, Hitler was only in Germany. Yeah, he's spread out, but this just gives movement to evil rhetoric, terrible treatment of people, more so than I think Hitler ever could. You know, and I think that's what's more worrisome. Hitler wrote Mein Kampf, and that's one thing if people were to read Mein Kampf. But at the same point, this man tweets on a daily basis. He puts his thoughts, no matter how vicious or despicable, out there for the world to see, and he doesn't care about his image. So I'm gonna go through this, and I think this is pretty good. I read through this, and I was like, this probably put me in more so of a standpoint that I think he is definitely the Antichrist, or could be the Antichrist, um, than anything else. So I reviewed every prophecy on the Antichrist, and when I read, it blew my mind. So updated New Science 610 2020. This is back in June. This is back in June? Oof. Bible predict the future with stunning accuracy, as so many in end times camp have claimed. So I grew up in a rapture, be out of here, end times movement. This isn't me, by the way. I'm just reading this. Have spoiled no shortage of critiquing it, even poking a bit of fun at it. As a theologian, I fall into the category of believing biblical prophecies about the end as being events that most fulfilled in the past, but I try to hold the belief that gently and recognize I could be wrong. And my fellow Christians in America have warned me over the years of exactly that, often telling me, I feel sorry for you, because when the Antichrist comes, you're not going to recognize him. But to honor those who have given me such warning, I decided to spend the past week studying most significant biblical prophecies and descriptions typically believed by my conservative friends to refer to the Antichrist. If my evangelical friends are correct, if it's entirely possible that the Antichrist is on a global scene today, I certainly wouldn't want to be the only person in the room to recognize the Antichrist when I saw him. In case you are a bit too rusty in the area of biblical predictions about the coming Antichrist, I don't want to be oblivious to such a person were to arise. Consider me your chief antichristologist, who is more than happy to help you out. You are the no kidding, no satire prophecies, signs of the Antichrist the Bible tells us to watch out for. That blew my mind by the time I was done. All right, so first one. Again, I didn't write this. I'm reading this. I think I'll go over the author. It's somewhere. Benjamin Murray. The Antichrist will be the leader of a nation that has military superpower with the ability to trample the entire earth. The fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, shall tread it down and break it in pieces. 3. This verse helps us to start by narrowing down the nations and times Antichrist could come from. The passage directly states that he is from a nation that is different from times before, and that it is powerful enough to crush and destroy the entire earth, likely a nuclear superpower. Revelations also speaks of the Antichrist and his prophet having to power to call down fire from the sky, which further supports this notion. Thus, when considering the prophecy in light of the world, we most likely leaves Russia or the United States as both have over 6,000 warheads, with remaining uh, nations having under a few hundred. Furthermore, Revelation 17 describes the Antichrist coming from a place where the multitudes of people, nations, and languages there are multitudes, which most likely accurately depict a melting pot nation. Like ironic? I think not. Is one. The Antichrist will be a man who is exceptionally arrogant and will be known for giving boastful speeches. You can hear his boastful speech, Daniel 7, Revelation 7, 3:15. So as you keep your eyes peeled on the Antichrist, be sure to keep in mind that it won't be a quiet leader who is deceitfully humble and flies under the radar. The Bible says to be someone who loves to give speeches where he boasts about himself. Yeah, of course, right? Because it's the opposite of Christ. Christ is humble. He wants to take care of people. He wants to help. He would never boast about himself because he knows that someone who takes care of others wouldn't do that, make others feel inadequate. So yeah, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Trump definitely fits that bill. The Antichrist will be someone known for making a lot of public threats against people. So had a mouth like that of a lion. Revelation 3:2, Daniel 7:4. As we begin to assemble book of prophecies, Christians on guard should be looking for a king-like figure who loves to boast about himself and also loves to go around looking like a lion. Things like threats to his enemies and constant verbal flexing of his muscle. The Antichrist will be someone obsessed with winning. He was bent on conquering. Two, in addition to a king-like figure who likes to run his mouth, the Bible tells us to be on the lookout for someone obsessed with winning. Of course, most people like to win, but this figure will be different. He will be obsessed with it, and he'll probably talk about it all the time. He might even fantasize about winning so much that it gets tired, that one gets tired of winning. Oh, I remember when he won the 2016 election by a landslide. The Antichrist will come from among seven tall hills that each act as a head. This one has seemed a bit far-fetched. I was like, this one's kind of stretching it, but that seems like the only one that was stretching it. The beast coming out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, which stood for 7 hills. Revelation 3:1, chapter 7. So John described the Antichrist, the beast, Antichrist, rising up from the sea as he looked out from the island of Patmos in this supernatural vision. The Bible describes the beast having 7 heads, which symbolize 7 hills that sit up high. Hills are metaphorical for places of power in the Bible. If the Antichrist were to come in the present age, we'd most likely looking for an American president known for being exceptionally arrogant, boastful, threatening others, and also gave him 7 tall hills or places of power, one of which would need to be somewhere in the vicinity where John was looking out into the ocean when the vision occurred. Hmm. Well, this is a weird coincidence. So I guess this is the original, where he's looking. And that's, I guess, where Trump Towers is. 7 heads, maybe like 7 potential headquarters. Well, funny thing again, while Donald Trump owns at least 10 skyscrapers I'm aware of, apparently only 7 of them are formally named Trump Towers. Trump Tower, New York City, Trump Tower International Hotel in Tower, Chicago, Trump Towers, Istanbul, Trump Towers International Hotel Tower, Toronto, Trump World Tower, New York, Trump Tower is Sunny Island Beach, and Trump Tower, Manila, which is the one I think it's referencing. And this is a little bizarre, but also in John's vision, he said that 7 heads had horns on them. Some had just one, some had two, kind of like the antennas on top. It's a bit stretched, but wow, and you know what? John's vision also said that 7 heads all had someone's name written across them. Interesting. And let's not even open the can of worms regarding the building of the Fifth Ave. Yeah, the same deal that was bailed out by Justice Kennedy's son before Kennedy surprised everyone and retired, giving Trump what had been a swing vote on Supreme Court. Power move. Kushner family closes deal with Sixth Avenue. Ooh, wait, what? Ooh, that's even weirder. What? Seriously? I didn't even see that before. Yeah? No way. Eerie. The Antichrist will cause people all over the globe to be filled with wonder and follow him. Kofifi. Looks right. The Horowitz was filled with wonder and followed the beast. True. How many followers does the guy have? I don't know, but a lot. I don't even know. I want to know. Verse also speaks of likelihood of the coming of the Antichrist as monarch to be in the modern world instead of the ancient one. 2,000 years ago, it would not have been possible for people all over the globe to be fascinated by a political leader, let alone follow them, right? And that's why I said initially Hitler could have been the Antichrist, but when you think about it, it would almost be impossible for everyone to follow him, especially because we couldn't get the word out. It's not like America would print Mein Kampf. I mean, this buffoon can easily just tweet whatever he wants when he wants at 24/7, and anybody can get it. Eerie. Okay, I got it. Some predictions and prophecies can be like horoscopes. They can appear to apply to anyone, and I'm with you. But when you get to stuff like numerology and interpreting 7 head piece, it's hard to know if something is either a coincidence or just plain silly. And I feel like even then, us trying to make sense of the world or put a face to a name and try and figure out what is going on. So that's why I'm doing this. Honestly, it started at this point. It tended to be silly, and during my research, began to find coincidences. Certain numbers happen to match a bit amusing at first few times, but at a certain point, the coincidences added up or two or got too specific and it wasn't funny anymore. Yeah, no crap. It was deeply unsettling. Yeah. And by the end, well, stick with me. As the prophecies grow more specific, you'll see in my mind, or where my mind was a bit blown, and why, as a Christian, spirit was deeply unsettled by the end of it. I will note, not a Christian. I'm not even a devout Catholic, so I can't even say that I'm fully 100% on this, but it just seems a bit, and I can't say with certainty that this is true. But I was deeply unsettled when this man first took office. I could have told you he was the Antichrist. In terms of if I thought what the word Antichrist meant, it would literally mean Antichrist, the opposite of Christ. And yeah, this guy would fit the bill. He would never feed the hungry. Are you kidding me? He'd rather throw them on the streets. Um, all right, so the Antichrist would be a political outsider with despicable character, a contemptuous personality, who wins an election that no one expects him to win. Shut the door. Go in your room. Shut the door. Um, so the despicable person will rise, a man of contempt to whom the royal honor has not been rightfully conferred. He will slip in, expected, and will seize the kingdom through flattery and intrigue. Daniel 11:21. So when looking to identity, the Antichrist, the Bible starts to help us. Um, sure, with some really specific prophecies based on what the Bible predicts. A most likely scenario of the arrival of the Antichrist would be a candidate for president who came from a private sector, well, not a royal background, right? Being found with despicable morality along with contemptuous personality, who campaigned on flattery and lies, but somehow went to win an election that no one expected to win, leaving the country stunned. Yep. Outsider, the election, and we shouldn't have. Antichrist would give speeches where he speaks great things and then about things that are even greater. He had a mouth that spoke great things that seemed greater than its companion. Starting to get weird now, isn't it? It's about the point I got goosebumps and a little freaked out also. Yes, in warning us, the Antichrist above predicts that both Daniel and Revelation that when the Antichrist comes, he'll not only be the contemptuous and arrogant political outsider who pulls an upset in the election, but warns us that he'll specifically be speaking of great and greater things along the way. The Antichrist comes to power through collusion with a secret alliance who uses this information to help him win, even though he has a minority number of supporters. Absolutely true. After an alliance is made with him, he will practice deception. He will go up and gain power with a small force of people. Right. So sorry, but this instance, Republicans, but you have a minority. The, the way you think, policies, and how you act, your power grubbing. I'm not saying it's all Republicans. I don't want to put them in that boat, but at some point, when this is your leader and you're calling yourself Republicans, and this is the guy that you vote for, you have to own it. I mean, I don't get why we're beating around the bush and just pretending like, oh, all Republicans are good. Yeah, well, if you're still a Republican and you support this guy and you still consider yourself a Republican, even this guy, it's like literally saying like, when someone's like a white supremacist, yeah, you're white, but you have to denounce white supremacy, otherwise you're considered a white supremacist too. Oh yeah, that's right, he didn't do that. That's a prime example of how literally has a minority of supporters because they support him literally like white supremacy. Antichrist rise to power will seem like a miracle, like God performed, tricking people into following Satan instead of God without even noticing. So the rise to power, the lawless one will be in accordance with how Satan works. He will use all sorts of displays of power, signs and wonders that serve a lie. Evil is evil, but evil is not stupid, or at least Satan isn't. The time comes to make his power move in the human story, find a way to not only make evil palatable, but try to ultimate bait switch by making God himself seem responsible for this evil. What better way to get him in than to do it and make it look like God actually did it? When the Antichrist comes, they're to look for a powerful religious folk claiming that it was a miracle from God. Did everything wrong politically. He offended gays, he offended women, he offended the military, and black people, he offended the banning people and everybody, and he became president of the United States. Only God could do that. Yeah. As a president, the Antichrist will immediately find ways to make himself and his friends richer, and he will do it in a way no president has before. Then he will distribute among his followers and plunder the wealth of the rich, something his predecessors had never done. So in this verse, the Bible continues down the path of helping us get more specific about the rise of the Antichrist, so we won't miss it when we see it. He says the Antichrist will be unique from all other presidents before him in the way that he will be able to use a presidency to instantly get richer and toss lots of money over to his friends. Er. Hmm. While all modern presidents are wealthy and politicians give kickbacks, Daniel indicates something different about the president, and that he will uniquely profit off the presidency in a way that previous presidents never imagined, like his Trump Tower. Hmm. Prophecy could likely only be fulfilled of a rich business person or to win a deceptively influenced election, and then serve as president with some sort of business structure that got he and his friends richer and richer from being president. If such a thing were to ever occur, you might likely hear a government oversight body state something to the effect of, the president has turned the government of the United States into a money-making operation for his family, his friends, and himself. I've heard that before. Hmm. Once in power, the Antichrist will reveal that his heart wants to make alterations to the appointed times that are in current laws. So he will try to change a set of times in the laws. Dan 725. What's fascinating is that the Bible never tells us exactly what he exactly as tells us he actually succeeds or does change the appointed laws, but he expresses wanting to change. What would it look like to express an interest in changing laws that run cycles at appointed times? It would likely be the Antichrist who would want to change elections, skip and delay an election, or extend term limits, etc. That's what the Bible says of intending to alter laws of appointed. Donald Trump keeps joking about serving more than two president. Trump keeps alluding to the extending his presidency unit. Trump again jokes about staying as president for more than two terms. The Antichrist will make fake news popular. Will be a chronic liar. His followers would believe his delusions because fake news don't. He will cause his seat to prosper, and he will consider himself superior. He will use every kind of evil deception to fool those on their way to destruction, because they refuse to love and accept the truth that would save them. Daniel 8:25 to Thess 2:10. Daniel 8 and 2 Thessalonians. Oh, that's why Thessalonians 2 are incredibly descriptive warnings to help us recognize the Antichrist, predicting that under his rule, deceit will prosper. Warns us to look for someone who calls the truth fake news. He was known for constantly lying. In fact, the Antichrist lies so much that the Bible stops calling him the Antichrist and starts calling him the liar, using the definite article for effect as it begins to personify fake news and lies. The Antichrist will reward those who are completely loyal to powerful positions to illustrate the deal. He will greatly honor those who acknowledge him and make those rulers over many people and will sell them land at a price. No kidding, the Bible predicts the Antichrist will be someone who negotiates powerful real estate deals with his friends. No joke. Antichrist is someone who is in need of constant affirmation. So the Bible predicts that he'll use his position to surround himself with blind loyalists who honor and submit. But the Antichrist, as the Bible predicts, look for a president who gives high-level positions away on the basis of personal loyalty. While all politics involve a love fist, the Bible calls the Antichrist a worthless shepherd, so he likely will have accountant leaders in right and incompetence, with many being blatantly unqualified or even a bunch of them going to jail. If soon enough to help us identify the Antichrist, the Bible throws us a major bone. He'll be a president experienced in negotiating land and property deals. He'll have access to plenty to buy and sell. But some prophecies are general enough to fit certain leaders here and there. Thankfully, the Bible gives us more rather specific clues to also look for, like a rich and arrogant political outsider who happens to be in the business of negotiating land and property deals. The Bible says we'll be able to spot the Antichrist because he'll give an arrogant public speech in the middle of his first term where he boasts of great things, but also used God's name as a curse in the same speech. There was given to him a mouth speaking of great things and blasphemous words. He opened his mouth saying terrible things, blasphemed the name of God. Revelation 3:5. Trump called out by some Christians for using the Lord's name in vain at Fiery North Carolina rally. Using the Lord's name in vain. Locals gave at Trump's blasphemy. I mean, if it were to happen, all my time friends would spot it, wouldn't they? Revelation 13, very specific, tells us that somewhere in the middle of the first 3.5 years of office, the Antichrist will give a very specific and telling speech. He will arrogantly brag of his accomplishments and great things. When is he not? He will also use God's name in the way considered to be blasphemy. This would be exceedingly eyebrow raising for any serious Antichrist hunter. Would this ever be in presidential speech, right? Right. Of course not. The Antichrist will draw strong support from many Christians if they were willfully blind and outright delusional. Yeah, this is the part that kills me. For false Christ, false prophets will arise and appear to perform great signs and wonders as to lead astray, if possible, God's own people. Use every kind of evil deception to fool those on their way to destruction. Matt 24-24, 2 Thessalonians 2:10. It's alright, but I'm old to remember when rivals were for God and blasphemy was a serious thing. The Antichrist will spend his first term in office having an ongoing feud with the leadership of a nation on his southern border. See, this one I was like, what? He'll pay for it. He will stir up his strength and courage against the South. By creepy coincidence, the entire Antichrist narrative in 11 is situated around the conflict along the southern border, where the Antichrist is wanting something that the king to his south will give him. Based on a whole of the Antichrist prophecies, common thread of money and greed, it certainly appears to be money that he wants from his south. And Mexico prepare for the wall. The Bible predicts that negotiating a deal will be hopeless as either side is willing to budge. Antichrist hates the leadership south of his border and hates his people. Not surprised, the Bible says that they aren't big fans of the northern king. Scripture tells that the negotiations never get off the ground as kings to the south don't want to give up the though. Excuse me. It also says the Antichrist will go down on the southern border as things heat up. There's a crisis on both sides have troops along the southern border, and the Antichrist will return home with a large sum of money shortly after. Very interesting coincidence. Trump toured the southern border and returned home days later to the Pentagon, awarding him $1 billion toward his border wall. Bible also says that even though the Antichrist will come home with a large sum of money, and that he's even more furious about things after. Even the money wasn't enough for what he wanted, and didn't know where the rest of the worst would come from. um, the Antichrist will be so angry at the kings of the south that he will decide to intentionally inflict harm on an ethnic group in retaliation. Oh yeah, watch, I'll do to your people. Oh yeah, visible. He will set himself against thy people, um, doing much damage before continuing his journey. So yes, you're tracking correctly about predicts the Antichrist will be an arrogant political outsider who talks about greater things, who wins an election where he has less supporters due to the election being tampered with, and then instantly gets rich off the presidency and spends his time in a feud with the president across the southern border. Yes, the Bible actually says that after negotiations fail at the southern border, he says to get even by intentionally inflicting harm and distress on that ethnic group, which he will. Get ready to have your mind blown with this Zechariah's prophecy what the coming Antichrist says on this matter, especially in light of what Daniel tells us regarding the Antichrist retaliation along the border. Their be leader over the land will not help the ones who are dying. He will go looking for the young who got lost. He will not go looking for those who got lost. Care for the children. He won't help those who are sick or broken, or even give nourishment to the hungry and who are still healthy. Yeah, exactly. The opposite. The opposite of what Christ would do. Literally, the Antichrist is exactly what that is. So I think exactly spot on. Children being removed from their parents is a deterrent from crossing the Northern Kingdom. Refugees being locked in cages without adequate care. Some dying in our custody. Children still missing, looking for adoption. No, they weren't orphans. Yeah, the Bible references the worthless shepherd who will do that, aka the Antichrist. The only firm warning signs from the Bible as its identity of the Antichrist. Apparently, God doesn't want us to miss it because he'll ask you to drive it all home. The Antichrist will be furious over rumors and reports that come from the east and north and will fly into fits of rage as reports surface. This one lost me. But reports will trouble hidden from the east and the north. He will set out in tremendous rage, destroy, wipe out many. That's right, and build the Antichrist feud along with southern border. You hear troubling rumors and reports that specifically come from eastern and northern parts of the country. The Bible goes on to predict that rumors will frighten him and leave him furious as he has fits of rage and will want to destroy people over the reports. The Trump curses Mueller appointment presidency. Antichrist will appear to receive a wound he can't recover from, but will survive to put down the first attempts to remove office. Yeah, see, this one was a bit too real. He appeared to be fatally wounded, but the fatal wound was healed, and then the whole world was amazed. I don't know if the whole world was amazed, but I mean, they were amazed that he survived. Revelation 3:13, and of course, when Trump squeaked by the Russian investigation due to the China DOJ policy, which doesn't allow the indictment of a sitting president, because the jury who decided the outcome of his trial announced the outcome before the trial was even held. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, so there's that. After he survived the wound, they worshipped the dragon who gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast who was like unto the beast. So I saw one of his heads were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and they worshipped the beast by saying, "Oh, okay, this is what I just said." Antichrist will have the nation's most powerful religious leader and influence for him. This leader will try to convince Christians the Antichrist is God's pick, and they support him. That's what I don't get because I don't follow Christianity or any Christian channels. Then I saw a second beast come from the earth who looked like a lamb, spoke like a dragon, and deceived his inhabitants of the earth. The Bible predicts the Antichrist will survive the near fatal wound to his rule, but then it goes on to tell us that he will need the most powerful religious leader in the country to help him solidify support among religious in order to stay in power, specifically around 3.5 year mark. 3.5 year mark, that's re-election season. The prophecy describes a political religious alliance where the most influential religious leader in the country goes around speaking to large crowds, displaying any and all religious credentials he can muster, in order to generate support for the Antichrist rule, at least uh, more than just 3.5 years. Weird. During the rule of the Antichrist, there will be a cold pandemic. Oh my god! During the rule of the Antichrist, there will be a global pandemic that will kill many people. It will kill many people. Maybe people died from waters that had been bitter or become bitter. It's a bit of a stretch, but I see it. Revelation 8:10. The Bible predicts that during the rule of the Antichrist, that there will be a global pandemic when illness enters the country from a foreign place, spreading in a liquid form, cough, sneeze, and ends up killing many, many people on the nation globally. During the pandemic, the Antichrist will not prioritize the vulnerable. Yeah, no shit. Their leader over the land will not help the ones who are dying. Zechariah 11:6. The pandemic hits, be on the lookout for a leader who delays action even though he knows people will die. He knew that early. He literally admitted it to it, and he wanted to play it down. Someone who publicly spreads scientifically false information. Yep, literally people are still getting sick while he still holds rallies. No masks that could get people killed. And someone who is in far more of a hurry to get back to winning than he is to hope they're sick and dying. Yeah, boom, exactly. It's more concerned about his reelection than he is. He literally was just saying the other day, COVID, COVID, COVID. Everybody was talking about COVID. Yeah, because it's still around. It's still killing people. Trump missed downplaying coronavirus severity. Trump missed a lot about the coronavirus. Yeah, during the rule, the Antichrist will begin having strange. People will have begin having strange and vivid. I would say I do have strange dreams, but I feel like maybe I do always have strange dreams, but I can't remember if it's due to the last 4 years or just in general. In the last days, God said, "I will pour out my spirit to all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy, and your young men will see visions, and your old men will dream." Maybe he's trying to call to us. Maybe God has reached the people have begun having strange vivid dreams all across the country. Scientists have been busy trying to explain why it's happening. New York Times reported that a query on Google, why am I having a weird dreams lately, has quadrupled. Even National Geographic has a full article on the spike of people reporting having strange dreams. Whether rule the Antichrist, there will be food shortages and huge spike in food prices, but will be a surplus of oil that remains cheap. 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages and do not damage the oil. Bob predicts that there will be food shortages that cause a dramatic spike in food prices while leaving some commodities untouched, yeah, like oil. In March and April of 2020, many Americans had their very first experience walking to a grocery store and finding shelves completely bare like toilet paper. The period also marked the biggest price increase in American food prices since 1974, at a time when oil, at such a surplus for that moment, it had a negative price. During the reign of the Antichrist, those who are wise to what is happening will rise up and resist the period of civil unrest. I'll read that one again. During the reign of the Antichrist, those who are wise to what is happening will rise up, resisting a period of civil unrest. They'll get a lot of attention, and they will face violence from security forces and receive no help from the Antichrist. Those who are wise will instruct many through before a time they will fall by the sword and burned or captured or plundered. They will fall. They will receive a little help. They will receive little help, who are not sincere will join. How do we know this hand of the Antichrist is in power? Well, according to Daniel, look at the period of civil unrest where those who resist speak out against the culture of the Antichrist. Protesters will face violence from security forces. Some will fall, get no help when they do. Their movement will be co opted by opportunists whose motive is to plunder, loot, who are not necessarily members of the resistance movement. Right? Target and the fear will join. The Antichrist will use his armed forces to remove people. Ugh. Let me stretch for a second. The Antichrist will use his armed forces to remove people from an area surrounding a church and will do something detestable in front of it. Yeah, this is, I feel like, when I saw this initially, I knew for certain that this was absolutely the devil in disguise, or that this was the epitome of evil. Because only you see something in a movie, like a sci-fi movie, like only devil or Satan would do such a thing. Anyway, his armed forces will rise up and desecrate an area surrounding the temple so that they can set up an abomination that leaves the area empty. In ancient time, God followers went to the temple to sacrifice, worship Him, gather together. The Bible tells us that during the rule of the Antichrist, there will come a time when churches do not gather like they used to. It further tells us, both in Daniel that mentioned by Jesus in Matthew 24, that the Antichrist will use the mayor to clear out the area outside of a church until it's empty and desolate. Once the area is clear, the Antichrist will do something just outside the church as an abomination of God. Did he hold the Bible upside down? He did. On June 1st, 2020, Donald Trump had federal officers fire tear gas, a weapon that is outlawed under the Geneva and rubber bullets on peaceful protesters on Washington D.C. To make an area desolate so he could walk to a local church for a staged photo op. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he held the Bible upside down. It was not a church he attended. He prefers to play golf on Sundays, and the photo op was to help him with conservative religious voters. Duh. To show that he was all for God. Okay, it's, literally, that's just like the devil. Look at me, look what I can do. Running your house of God. What is also interesting is the Bible tells us that the very next verse, that after the Antichrist engages in act in front of the church, he will flatter and compliment Christians who have betrayed their faith to follow him. In an interview after his stage event, Trump said that religious people were happy that he did it, and mentioned Franklin Graham and Robert Jeffries, offering them both flattery. The pastor of the church was absolutely furious that he would not only do this to his peaceful protesters in front of the church, but that he would use their church and Bible from inside, as a photo op. So not even his own. He just took it from inside. They even threw a priest church off the property in order to do it. Even worse. The Antichrist will see himself as being above everyone else, as if he had no need for God. He will eventually elevate himself as God and King of Israel. So, and he will exalt himself above all, so that he sets himself up in God's own temple in Israel, proclaiming himself to God. Second Thessalonians, I think, or Revelation 17. However, it's hard to imagine that exactly happening. I don't know if he ever had a professing Christian who saw themselves as being so flawless or has zero reverence for God. Well, I'll take that back. Never mind the admission. He's never seen a need to ask good God forgiveness for anything they're saying. Why should I repent if I haven't done anything wrong? Just today did something that seemed unthinkable. Here's Donald Trump, just about predicts setting himself up like he's a god and king of Israel. Thank you to Wayne Allen Root for the very nice words. President Trump is the greatest president for Jews and for Israel in the history of the world. Not just America, he is both president for Israel and the history of the world. The Jewish people in Israel love him. He's like the king of Israel. I can't even read that. Ugh. They love him like he's the second coming of God, but American Jews don't know him or like him. They don't even know what they're saying, what they're doing or saying anymore. Makes no sense, but that's okay. If he keeps doing what he's doing, he's good for. What the fuck, this guy? Beyond words. This is what the Antichrist looks like. I love this article so much. This is why I'm reading it. This is so good. Beyond words. This is what the Antichrist looks like. But you know what? He's not the God of Israel. He doesn't worship or even know what God of Israel is. You know, I feel like he's never been to church. I can't even tell. For a photo op. But I'm ready for some Antichrist strolling about 26,000 years in the waiting? Well, now, yeah, the Antichrist. Well, we all know the Antichrist hates God and doesn't worship him. The Bible does actually let us on a secret and tells us who the Antichrist does worship. And spoiler, not actually Satan. Uh-oh. What? The Antichrist will worship the god of border walls. For real. The Bible actually says it. Say what? All hail great powerful border wall. He will show no regard for the gods of his ancestors or the ones desired by women, nor will he regard any god, but he will exalt himself above them all. Instead of them, he will honor God no more, whom I've heard of, no one we have heard of before, a god of fortresses. He will worship God with a lot of money. God with a lot of money. You can't even make stuff up. Yes, the Bible actually says that instead of worshiping a true God, the Antichrist will worship an unknown god of fortresses. What is this word fortresses literally translated to? Border walls that secure a city or country. That's what. Yes, the Bible says the Antichrist will worship the god of border walls. Some commentators argue it's not even referencing a real city or a real deity, though some think that it's a god of towers, like a gate tower. But instead, note that it's likely the Antichrist will be so obsessed with a border wall, worshipping it with a lot of money, that it functionally becomes his god. What? Yep, trolling from long since dead guys. The Antichrist's most devoted followers will wear a sign of their allegiance to him on their foreheads. And they receive a mark on their right hand and on their foreheads. Revelation 13. He thought that it was going to be a barcode or a chip. The final biblical prophecy of the Antichrist. Oh, is the next one. Yeah, I never understood the hats. I never understood the Trump 20 or like Trump 26. Like never once as I don't. Did I ever like walk around and be like Obama 2012? Yeah, I didn't do that. Or 2008. I didn't do Obama 08. I don't do Biden 2020. Like nobody does that. Trump 20. It's just the final biblical prophecy or the biblical prophecy on the Antichrist. People who truly know God and remain faithful will firmly resist. So with flattery, he will corrupt those who have violated the covenant, but the people who know their God will firmly resist. Yep, even though the name of our movement isn't mentioned in the Antichrist narrative. So in the end, which will I believe theologically on the subject of eschatology after the research project? I don't know yet. What I do know is this. If the Antichrist comes, I'm not going to be the one guy in the room that doesn't recognize it. Oh, he did a video? There was a whole video on it? I have to watch it later. Benjamin Corey. That's what it is. Corey. Is an author, speaker, scholar, and global traveler who holds graduate degrees in theology and cultural studies from Gordon Conwell and his doctorate in cultural studies from Fuller. The man knows what he's talking about. He's an author of Unafraid, Moving Beyond Fear-Based Faith. So it seems like he's not just a crazy Christian. I take it as it is. I don't know. I really wanted to share it. I wanted to do this video. I've been meaning to do like a longer video where I just talk. I know I read this whole article, but this kind of just feeds into what I've thought about for so long and what I've tried to communicate without crazy, which is what I'm going to be, which is what I'm going to do anyway when you watch this. But I don't know. You tell me what you think. I think Trump's the Antichrist. Do I know what the bringing of the Antichrist means? I would imagine it would mean the end of what we know to be the world, or a new creation of the kingdom of heaven, right? Is the final battle. It's where evil becomes the most strongest and tries to take over again. And then the Antichrist, or Christ returns to protect us. Isn't that how it works? I mean, I don't know. I always envision if Christ were to ever come back at this point, he'd be like covered head to toe in armor, this like sick ass sword, ready to like slay demons and like take the shit out of Satan. Take that, Satan. Um. So yeah, I don't know if anyone's gonna ever watch this video or ever see it, but you don't like Trump. And if you do like Trump, I don't. I mean, at this point, I feel bad for you. I mean, it's not like I'm a fan of Biden. I mean, that's not. You know what I mean? Like, why is it that we're in this position where it's like, oh, one turd of the other turd? No, we're still getting turd. But if you were to try and put Biden in the same position, no, it wouldn't work. Obama, the same thing. Wouldn't say Obama or Biden were. Even if Biden was, let's say, a pedophile, like, does not outweigh the amount of things that Trump has literally done out in public. Like, your conspiracy theories of one thing does not outweigh, like, the truth of what has actually come out from another person. And the man will blatantly be rude and disrespectful and just lie. His followers are like, yes, yes, you whatever you say. So yeah, I think he's the Antichrist. I think he's ushering in a new era and not the one that he thinks. This is a world where I don't want to say evil is no more because I feel like that's almost impossible. But where greed and corruption doesn't exist, like because people are just generally, I don't know. I just feel like the whole ultimate goal of humanity, no matter what religion it is to just survive and do it the right way. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole point of me saying this in terms of like comparing Donald Trump to the Antichrist. And if he were the Antichrist, is like, what's the whole point of Christ? Just isn't it just to teach people to be good to each other? I mean, honestly, like enjoy what we have, enjoy nature, enjoy what God gave us. Don't all religions carry that same theme? Be good, give back, karma. I just don't understand how people who do terrible things think they're gonna have somehow benefit. And I feel like this is why we live in a world where evil is taking control, where people are more apt to believe conspiracy theories that are unfounded and untrue than the facts. If you're gonna believe a conspiracy theory, good, believe this one because this is a pretty good conspiracy theory. I mean, If I'm just gonna go with the word anti-Christ, I literally am just gonna stick with the fact that it literally means someone who is the opposite of what Christ stood for, and that human being, Donald Trump. I'm sure there are more out there, people like Donald Trump, and I feel like by him being president and having the power that he does, he gives rise to those, gives him a lane to drive in. Whereas if there wasn't that lane to drive in, those people either die away or would have to change. But now that's not the case. We don't live in a world where you have to change your beliefs and ways because it hurts someone else. Obviously, as you can see. What was it? I just watched the news the other day. He literally just, was it last night? Said that if Biden got killed 3 days into the election or after the election, you'd have Kamala, Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. There you go. You'd have Kamala Harris. Is that what you want? When has any ever president ever just like outwardly said if his opponent was assassinated, you'd get his vice president? Let's be honest. When has a president or presidential ever said, "I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, still win the election"? Oh, that's right. He did. So I don't know. I'm gonna post this video on not my typical YouTube channel. This is gonna go on my one that I have no videos on because people are gonna think I'm cuckoo bananas. I'm not cuckoo bananas. I'm an educated man. I was a teacher. I'm not anymore because I don't want to be. Teaching has changed, but that's another story. I'll post that video some other time. I wanted to post this one because this was really getting to me, and I think I think this is true. I think there's something that we need to do, and I don't know what to do because I feel like we're in a time where enough people believe him and support him that it's not as simple as just turning around. You know what I mean? And if 50% of the if country supports this guy, Donald Trump, how do you how do you you can't move forward. You can't move forward until at least everyone is on the same page. 75%, if that. I don't think that's even if he loses the election, I think we're still doomed anyway. I think the things that he has done as the Antichrist have cemented his reign in our country in terms of sowing and creating um, seed and, you know, not knowing who's telling the truth and straight up confusion. Is there a way to get back? I don't know. It'll take a Christ like figure, and I don't know if they exist anymore. If they did, this is the kicker. If he was actually a good human being, like JFK, Malcolm X, all these other people, Martin Luther King, don't they usually get assassinated when they're actually doing a good job? Like, here's an example of he literally is doing a terrible job. Nobody cares. No one said anything about it. But when people actually try to make change, try and do the right thing, and that's when they actually get killed. How does that make any sense? Not to say that I'm not saying that Donald Trump should be assassinated. There's no way in shape or form that I'm saying that. I don't believe that. I'm not here to say that anyone deserves that. I'm just saying it makes no sense how somehow people who want to do good in this world are always destroyed or taken away when those that continuously seek to destroy or in and sow hatred and anger you to do so with those who have a voice of compassion and empathy can barely speak up. If they do speak up, well, they're just squished. So let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm doing with this at any point. I just wanted to read this out loud and have somebody to give mad credit to this guy, Benjamin Corey. I feel like I'll tag him in this. Like, I don't know. He probably did a way better job than talking about it than I did, but I just wanted to go over it. Mad props. Comment, like, subscribe. There's no way that would happen. Follow my other channel, Mr. Greg 24, Mr. Greg's YouTube channel.